I'm excited to bring you this very first episode of Overcomers. In this episode, we're going to go to the home of our very special guest, Pastor Stegall. Pastor Stegall, she is a wonderful, loving woman of God, and we just want to get an opportunity to document what God has done in her life that truly allows her to proclaim that she is among the number of overcomers. So let's go. We're going to set up on our back porch and we're going to be blessed by learning from a seasoned woman of God how amazing and mighty He is. And Pastor Stegall, if you could just share with us when you were born and where you come from and how you got where you are today.
All right, thank you, Elder Santos. I was born in Grenada, Mississippi. Farmer parents, mother and father. My parents had 13 children and 6 girls, and the other was boys. And we was raised on a farm back in the country. And as a young girl, I felt myself always needing to leave Mississippi. Very young age. You know, the Lord start working on you when you're young. And the vision don't just start today when you grow up, but very young in life. I remember my parents coming into town, with the horses and mules in the wagon. And my mother had customers where she brought butter and milk in. My mother, we would walk, because I would walk with her. I was a little girl, but I would walk with her into town to bring the butter and milk and the string beans and on top of her head. 8 miles we walked in.
8 miles.
8 miles into town. And so this particular day, my mother, they parked the wagon. I don't guess they call it park, but that's what I can think right now. Right behind the store of one of her customers. They let her do that. And we'd walk over town, meet the friends and people we knew, and have fun with the young people, meet those boys that we were liking, and the young girls. And it was fun for us because we was in the country, not much to do. And so the Lord would bless us to come in and have that recreation.
And what year was you born? So we can kind of...
30.
In 1930?
1930.
So you were going in the 40s?
I'm going way back there.
So, right, you were probably in the late 30s, 40s, doing what you're describing to me.
Right,
wow.
Late 30s. But it was, as I look back now, see, that was my learning, and that was my foundation. And I never despised my foundation. I built off it because that was me. That's how the Lord brought me, right. And He taught me. And then as I grew up and not very old, just a young girl, we would go to the train station after we got through walking around. And we would sit there. Maybe we would have an ice cream cone. And we would sit there. And one day I heard in that whistle of that train, it says, "It's time for you to leave here." Woo. Young. That's when I said the vision starts early, and you may not be able to tap in right then and do it, but it follows you on until that particular time comes. And so went on back home and did what we needed to do during the years before the Lord sent me to Phoenix, Illinois, to my oldest sister. I had a dream that I was coming to my sister's, and I didn't tell my sister that I was coming, but something happened to cause me to leave when I did. And I had the dream, as I said, and her house was sitting right where the Lord showed me it was sitting. And it showed me that there was a puddle of water before I went to my sister's door. And so when I got to my sister's house that night, there were that puddle of water. And so the Lord is great. You know, He's great. Elder Santos, and
Yes, He is.
whatever you want me to.
No, you're right, and you're exactly on point. So He showed you, so when you got there, you had a confirmation.
It was just like He had showed me in the dream.
So it gave you some comfort, I would think. Coming from a little girl in Mississippi, coming to close to a big city. You were nowhere from Chicago. Phoenix is just close to Chicago.
Close to Chicago. Close to Chicago. Just a short ways. Coming as a young girl.
By yourself,
17.
Or who come with you?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
17 years old.
Coming to Phoenix, Illinois, to my sister.
And how big was this country town that you lived in? Was it a town or was it country?
It was a little town.
Like, how many people would you just estimate it was? Was it like, how many was in your school? How many did you go to your class with? Would you remember?
Oh, 6, 7, 8, or 9.
7, 8, or 9.
like that, just a small group.
Right, and it was all of y'all together, right? All ages. It was not just kindergartens or just third grade.
Together.
You're together. So it's kind of your family, I would think, right? Your brothers and sisters, or no?
No, it was the neighbors around in the neighborhood.
Okay. Okay.
So we lived way back in the country, and like I said, 8 miles from town.
8 miles.
And so this little country school was back there.
Okay.
And not very many children. But we had a special teacher, and I always think about her. Her name was Mrs. Green.
Mm-hmm.
And I always looked up to her because she always looked professional.
Wow.
When I was a young girl, I always thought about her. She always wore skirts and sweaters. And I thought she always looked so professional.
Right.
She looked professional in that. And I always admired her, even till today.
Because in that time, I would imagine, the men were wearing probably overalls, and it wasn't quite as what we would call fancy that you would see very often.
Overalls, with the scraps come up here on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they were.
Right. And so what kind of farm did your father have? What did he do?
Corn. Cotton, peanuts, potatoes.
Okay, corn, cotton, peanuts.
And Mom planted a garden, okra, collard greens, turnip greens, string beans.
Okay, and she was taking that to town to sell the different...
She was taking some of that to town.
Right, and fed y'all with it, I imagine. Yeah.
But things was very hard. We didn't have things easy. And I remember one year, it was a winter, and things was very hard, and we had peas. Seemed like we'd had them when I was a girl coming on. We had a song the children sang, and the little song says, peas pot hot, peas pot cold, peas pot in the pot 10 days old.
Just eating peas, huh?
And I thought that we had 8 peas, complete 10 days, because we had peas every day. Amen. And with those peas my daddy planted, see, for the wintertime, we had a big sifter that you would shell the peas, and then when the wind came forth, it would blow the hulls off of the peas.
Use what God gave you.
Yes, that's what we had to do. That's
Wow.
what we had to do.
So now you're in Phoenix, and you've moved 17 years old, young girl from the country, to just a suburb of a big city, just outside of a big city, Chicago, Illinois.
Yes.
And this is in, so about 47, somewhere, 47,
Somewhere
17.
in there.
So it's around 47, and you move in with your sister,
oldest sister.
Your oldest sister, and she had apparently moved to Phoenix, so she had left.
She
also
had left. She and her husband.
And was her husband from here or from
somewhere in Tennessee?
In Tennessee. Okay. So you move in, and God showed you the vision where you were going, and now you're where He showed you that you belong. That's how I translate what I heard. So now you're here. Now pick me up from there. Kind of the next major transition.
All right. I went to nursing school from Phoenix, and I finished nursing, and then I started working in a hospital. The name of that hospital was Oak Forest.
Okay.
That was my first job. And I was very young, and they didn't want nobody my age in there.
Oh.
But somehow the Lord blessed, and they got me a job.
Got you a job.
Working in Oak Forest. And they had a place for the nurses to stay.
Oh, really?
And so I stayed there until I got married.
Okay. And how did you meet your husband?
I was in, as I said, I lived in Phoenix. And we was at a candy ice cream place that they had for young people. And I was there sitting. And this young man was in the army, and he was out on a furlough or something. And he said to me, "Do you want to meet a nice young man?" And I said, "It don't matter."
He said it don't matter.
I don't care, whether or not I meet him or not. So he went and got him, my husband, and brought him over. And so I didn't like him at first.
No?
No, I didn't like him. I thought he was a little uppity. And so we talked, and so he wanted to take me out, picture show. We was going in this little place where I said I met him at. The young people, they had a jukebox at that time.
Okay.
And ice cream. We could dance, those that wanted to dance, but I was sitting at that time. And so, anyway, I met him, and he wanted to take me out, so we started going out. And so later on, I liked him a little bit more.
Okay.
And later on, we got married after a couple of years.
Okay, so you courted him for a couple years.
Yes.
You did some, what they said back in that day, my grandma called sparking, huh? He sparked for a couple of years.
A couple of years.
Yeah. So you were married. Now, was you, what kind of church life did you have up to this point?
Not much at all. Not much. The young people around me, they went to church. But I was brought up in the Methodist church.
Okay.
My father was a Baptist preacher.
Okay.
So when I came on my own, children do what they want to do.
Right.
And so that's how it was. I did what I wanted to do.
So you grew up going to church. But once you were 17, moved with your sister, going to college, got a job. Now you weren't going to church on a regular basis because you're grown now.
I was grown, just doing what I wanted to do.
Right. So now you're married after 2 years of courting or so.
Yeah.
And what I've heard you, just a little bit sharing with us in the church, some of your trials and tribulations in your beginning of your marriage. But what led you up to that place where you were ready to make that decision to be grown and make your own choice?
I don't know. As I was saying, the Lord leads you in different. He just leads you along in different spots. With me, he didn't say me just bam, but he just different things just kept coming forth, and he kept making himself known to me in different little ways. After a while, I got a hungriness for him, and I don't know. Well, yes, I began to seek him a little bit, having problems and tests. I remember calling my sister, who had just passed a few weeks ago, and telling her about what I was going through. And so she advised me. She says, "You go on a 10-day fast," she said, "and you tell the Lord what you want." And she wanted to know what I wanted. And I said, I just wanted my home together. Well, I just wanted my home fixed. I could have walked out and forgot about it, but I always had a desire that I wanted my home, my husband with the children. And one more thing that I desired, that I prayed for in my heart, that I didn't want another woman want me to say that another woman taken my husband.
Right.
I was going to fight for it.
Right.
And so I could have walked out many times and left, but I didn't. So I began fasting. And at that particular time, when my sister told me to go on this 10-day fast and tell the Lord what I wanted. So I went on that 10-day fast, and she said, "Don't talk about nothing else. Just tell him that." And so I did, from morning until 3 o'clock in the evening. I just told him to fix my home. Now, a lot of times people think the Lord is going to do things overnight, but I tell folks he don't always do things overnight, although you may be fasting and praying.
Right.
But 14 years I went through.
14 years.
14 years.
So not overnight.
No, it wasn't overnight, and it wasn't with the preacher laying hands on you, praying for you for your home, because you know yourself what goes on in your home better than anybody else do.
Right.
So God need to fix you. And so as I went through in my home with different things that came up, God was fixing me and fixing me up for this day so that I could tell women how to keep their home.
Yes.
Amen. How to stand up and be the woman that they should be. As I had my children, my mother-in-law wouldn't even keep my children for an hour. So it made me to be the woman that I needed to be with everything that happened to me. And I didn't understand it at first, going through and suffering, whatnot, why I'm going through all of this. But today I know why.
So you couldn't put your children off on nobody else.
Nobody else.
God did not allow it to be set up that way.
He didn't allow it. I had to see about my own children. Now, there was a couple of times when my sister, a couple of the sisters wanted to keep the children for a couple of weeks from down south. And so they did. And I would let them keep a couple of weeks, and I would go get them.
Right.
But I could not put my children off on nobody.
Right.
To take care. I did it myself.
So I'd like for you to share about part of one of your prayers that you had to God, that he answered this prayer that you've told me about before, where this is part of the manifestation even till today for your husband's life.
Okay. talking about the testimony of my son, but
No, about whenever you wanted your husband about a job.
oh, my husband was just like all the young men are. Whatever they can get away with, they would do it.
Right.
So my husband had his grandmother and his mother to fall on. And so he was, as I say, he was like the other young men, running to the tavern, staying long as he wanted to. And he had a little bouncing job at the tavern. And that was no money, for family, growing family, to use to help get up.
How many children?
I don't know. It was probably 2 or 3 by then.
Oh, at that time.
At
right.
that
But
time.
what did it end up becoming?
5 children.
5 children. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It probably was a couple of children, 2 or 3 perhaps. And so I went on a fast. We needed money.
Mm-hmm.
I needed some money coming in every week, so that we could grow and have the things we needed. And so he didn't have no job but that job, that a bouncing. You understand?
Yep, bouncing at like a bar or some of that, a tavern or
at
something
the
that
tavern,
sort.
at the tavern.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked the Lord to give my husband a job so that we would have money coming in every week, so that we would have things to do that we needed to do, like insurance and just everything. And so after I had gone on that fast, I don't remember if it was a 3-day fast now, if it was that 10-day fast, but the Lord would give me to use that 10-day fast lots. And after that 10-day fast, the week after the 10-day fast, my husband went out, found him a job at Ford plant, worked there 35 years. 35 years. Retired from Ford plant. Amen. And so my husband liked also to gamble. Okay. He would go out and he would spend some money, have some money, and he would have this little extra money. Mm-hmm. And he'd have the means to run over and bring me the money.
Okay.
So one day I told him, I says, his name was Maurice. I said, Maurice, I asked the Lord for that job that you have to give it to us. Now this extra money that you making, I didn't ask for that. But I want to see that money from that job.
Wow.
I want to see that money from that job. Now, I'm not asking you for this. I keep it. But I'm asking for that money from that job that I fasted and prayed for. And God gave you.
Wow.
So, but this was, see, when a person have done a lot of different things, they want to make it right.
Right.
And that's what I figured he was trying to do, was make things right. And so he would have those men that was his friends to bring that money home. And so the Lord began to bless us to come up then.
And now he retired from that position.
He retired from that position.
And it created a pension for
for
you
me
and
today.
him, and even today. Right.
So I thank God.
Just shows how God, like we said, he's an overcomer. He lets us overcome situations to where that it's still producing you fruits today. Yes. It hasn't ended. That one sacrifice, God allowed it to manifest itself the rest of the days of your life.
That's right.